that you said that all weapons should be banned. Is that a fair statement?
To be clear, this wasn't based on violence. This is based on threats specifically to individuals, on gangs.
They were and shot by someone and couldn't defend themselves because their guns were taken from them.
Revisiting California's open carry restrictions. In a recent development, a federal appeals court has reignited a legal battle over California's restrictions on openly carrying arms in public. This decision provides Mark Baird and Richard Gallardo, two arm owners, with another opportunity to challenge a law they believe infringes upon their Second Amendment rights. The case highlights the complex interplay between individual liberties and public safety concerns in the context of arm control legislation. The Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." This amendment has been a subject of intense legal and philosophical debate since its inception. It forms the bedrock of the right to bear arms, a fundamental tenet of American constitutional law. California, like many states, has enacted laws to regulate the carrying of arms in public. Specifically, it restricts the open carry of handarms, requiring individuals to obtain a concealed carry permit in order to carry a concealed arm. This regulation stems from the state's efforts to balance the rights of arm owners with public safety considerations. Mark Baird and Richard Gallardo initiated their legal challenge in 2019, contending that California's restrictions on openly carrying handarms infringe upon their Second Amendment rights. The heart of their argument lies in the belief that the state's regulations unduly limit their ability to exercise their constitutionally protected right to bear arms. U.S. District Judge Kimberly Mueller, a nominee of former President Barack Obama, presided over the initial proceedings. In December of the prior year, Judge Mueller decided against issuing a preliminary injunction that would have temporarily suspended the enforcement of California's open carry restrictions. Her rationale was rooted in concerns for public safety, fearing that relaxing these regulations could potentially lead to heightened risks. The recent ruling by a three-judge panel of the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals marks a significant turn in the legal battle. The panel determined that Judge Mueller may have applied an incorrect legal standard when evaluating the request for a preliminary injunction.
Since you rewrote the rules of asylum based on the perceived degree of violence in these countries,
the ATF is not supposed to make law. That is supposed to be left up to Congress.
This suggests a recognition of the potential impact of a U.S. Supreme Court decision from the previous year that expanded the scope of arm rights. The case encapsulates a broader debate surrounding the Second Amendment and the delicate balance between individual freedoms and collective safety. Advocates for stricter arm control measures argue that limitations on openly carrying arms are essential for maintaining public safety. They posit that such regulations help prevent potential incidents of crime or accidents involving arms in public spaces. On the other hand, proponents of broader Second Amendment rights contend that individuals should have the freedom to openly carry arms as long as they meet certain legal requirements. They argue that this right serves as a safeguard against potential threats to personal safety and is crucial for self-defense. As the legal proceedings continue, the outcome of this case holds the potential to set a precedent for how states regulate the open carrying of arms in public spaces. The decision may influence policies not only within California, but also reverberate across the broader legal landscape. The ongoing legal battle between Mark Baird, Richard Gallardo, and the state of California exemplifies the complex and contentious nature of Second Amendment rights in the U.S. The case highlights the enduring debate over how to balance individual liberties with collective security in the realm of arm control. Ultimately, the outcome of this case could leave a lasting mark on the evolving discourse surrounding arm rights and public safety in America. Analyzing the judicial dispute. Judge Lawrence Van Dyke, appointed by President Trump, contends that U.S. District Judge Kimberly Mueller did not adequately assess a pivotal factor in her ruling: whether Mark Baird and Richard Gallardo, the arm owners challenging California's open carry restrictions, were likely to succeed in their constitutional claim. Van Dyke underscores that the right to bear arms, as enshrined in the Second Amendment, should not be considered a second-class right. He emphasizes that evaluating the plaintiff's claims is of paramount importance, especially when the alleged violation pertains to Second Amendment infringement. Judge Van Dyke's perspective sheds light on the gravity of assessing the constitutional merits of Barrett and Gallardo's case. In matters of constitutional rights, the courts play a crucial role in safeguarding and interpreting the fundamental liberties outlined in the U.S. Constitution. The Second Amendment, which protects the right to bear arms, is a cornerstone of American civil liberties and has been subject to extensive legal analysis and debate throughout the nation's history. By invoking the term second-class right, Judge Van Dyke raises an essential point about the hierarchy of constitutional protections. He asserts that no constitutional right should be marginalized or relegated to a lesser status when weighed against others. In the context of the Second Amendment, this argument emphasizes that the right to bear arms should be afforded the same level of consideration and scrutiny as any other constitutional provision. Van Dyke's assertion that the gravity of a constitutional violation remains constant, regardless of the specific amendment in question, highlights the nuanced nature of constitutional law. In cases involving Second Amendment rights, the courts must delicately balance individual liberties with the broader societal interest in public safety. This challenge lies at the heart of debates surrounding arm control legislation in the U.S. The ongoing legal battle between Barrett, Gallardo, and the state of California is more than a localized dispute. It exemplifies a national conversation on arm rights and public safety. The outcome of this case has the potential to influence how states approach the regulation of arms in public spaces, setting a precedent for future legal challenges and policy decisions. This case also underscores the enduring division of opinion regarding the Second Amendment. Advocates for stricter arm control argue that limitations on openly carrying arms are essential for safeguarding public safety. They contend that such regulations mitigate the risks of accidents and incidents of crime involving arms in public areas. Conversely, proponents of broader Second Amendment rights contend that individuals should possess the freedom to openly carry arms, provided they meet legal requirements. They argue that this right serves as a crucial form of self-defense and protection against potential threats. The legal dispute surrounding California's open carry restrictions encapsulates the intricate interplay between individual liberties and public safety considerations in the context of Second Amendment rights. Judge Van Dyke's assertion that evaluating constitutional claims is paramount, regardless of the specific amendment in question, serves as a crucial reminder of the enduring importance of safeguarding constitutional rights. Ultimately, the outcome of this case may leave a lasting mark on the ongoing discourse surrounding arm rights and public safety in the U.S. Second Amendment challenge prevails. In a recent development, a federal appeals court ruling has breathed new life into a legal battle challenging California's restriction on openly carrying arms. Mark Baird and Richard Gallardo, represented by attorney Amy Bellatoni, asserted that these regulations infringe upon their Second Amendment rights. This article delves into the implications of this ruling and the broader debate surrounding arm rights in California. Amy Bellatoni, the attorney representing Baird and Gallardo, expressed satisfaction with the recent ruling. She asserted that California's open carry regulations are at odds with the explicit language of the Second Amendment. Bellatoni further emphasized that a preliminary injunction temporarily halting the enforcement of these regulations is warranted in light of this ruling. California maintains stringent regulations on openly carrying arms, generally prohibiting it with limited exceptions. These exceptions apply primarily to counties with populations under 200,000, which collectively constitute approximately 5% of the state's residents. In these smaller counties, individuals may obtain open carry permits under specific circumstances. Mark Baird and Richard Gallardo reside in those smaller counties and have endeavored to secure open carry permits. However, they claim to have encountered significant barriers in their attempts to obtain the required licenses. Their legal challenge hinges on the contention that California's restrictions disproportionately impede their ability to exercise their Second Amendment rights. The federal appeals court's ruling reflects a significant milestone in the ongoing legal battle. By acknowledging the constitutional concerns raised by Baird and Gallardo, the court signals a potential shift in the interpretation and enforcement of California's open carry regulations. This decision not only impacts the plaintiffs, but also has broader implications for how the Second Amendment is understood within the context of state-level arm control measures.
Details of the law, but folks, listen at home. Here's a quick summary of what this law is doing. It's already allowing.
Second Amendment protects in common use at the time, and also said this, quote, for lawful purposes like self-defense.
Attorney Amy Bellantoni's statement underscores the conviction that California's open carry regulations run counter to the unambiguous language of the Second Amendment. This perspective aligns with the plaintiff's argument that the regulations unduly impede their right to bear arms. Bellantoni's call for a preliminary injunction is rooted in the belief that such a measure is necessary to prevent further infringement on their Second Amendment rights. The Office of California Attorney General Rob Bonta, a Democrat, has responded to the ruling by stating that they are in the process of reviewing the decision. The statement also emphasizes that criminal penalties for unlicensed open carry of arms remain in effect. This underscores the state's commitment to maintaining public safety even as the legal landscape surrounding open carry regulations undergoes scrutiny. The ruling in favor of Baird and Gallardo opens up a larger conversation about arm rights in California and the broader U.S. It prompts a reevaluation of the balance between individual liberties and public safety, particularly in the context of open carry regulations. The case serves as a microcosm of the ongoing national debate surrounding the scope and limitations of the Second Amendment. The recent federal appeals court ruling represents a significant milestone in the legal battle against California's open carry restrictions. Baird and Gallardo's challenge highlights the enduring relevance and complexity of Second Amendment rights in American society. As the legal proceedings continue, the case will be closely watched for its potential to influence the interpretation and enforcement of arm control measures, not only in California, but also on a national scale. Red flagging for body armor. In California, known for its stringent arm control laws, a recent development has left many scratching their heads. AB 301, a new legislative proposal, has been sent to the governor's desk for approval. While at the time of this video's creation, it has not been signed into law based on the governor's track record, there's a strong likelihood of it passing. This measure, if enacted, would introduce a bewildering addition to California's already extensive arm control framework, red flagging individuals for owning body armor. California boasts one of the most comprehensive sets of arm control laws in the entire United States. The sheer volume and complexity of these regulations have already made it a highly regulated state when it comes to firearm ownership. Given this backdrop, the introduction of yet another measure may seem surprising, especially one targeting body armor. AB 301 proposes a modification to California's existing red flag laws, formerly known as Armed Crime Restraining Orders, to include body armor as a factor in determining if someone poses a risk. Under this proposed change, if an individual is found to own or purchase body armor, it could be cited as evidence in support of filing a GVRO against them. The bill's language specifically outlines the inclusion of body armor as a potential factor in determining if grounds for a GVRO exist. This addition to the existing red flag laws further expands the scope of what can be used against an individual, potentially leading to the seizure of arms. Notably, the time frame for considering the possession of body armor is set within the last 6 months prior to the filing of the petition. The potential consequences for individuals subject to a GVRO due to body armor ownership are significant. Firstly, the most immediate impact is the temporary removal of arms, an action taken to mitigate any perceived immediate risk. In more severe cases, violations of a GVRO could result in criminal charges, ranging from misdemeanors to felonies based on the severity of the violation. Furthermore, non-compliance with a GVRO may lead to being held in contempt of court, resulting in additional penalties such as fines or even imprisonment. This underlines the importance of adhering to court orders and abiding by the legal restrictions outlined in the GVRO. Additionally, violating a GVRO may result in an extension or modification of the order if a judge determines that the individual continues to pose a risk. This discretionary power further emphasizes the seriousness with which GVRO violations are treated within the legal system. This development has raised significant concerns among Second Amendment advocates. They worry that the inclusion of body armor in the criteria for issuing a GVRO could potentially infringe upon an individual's Second Amendment rights. Critics argue for the necessity of clear and specific criteria for flagging individuals and robust due process protections to ensure fairness. In assumption, the introduction of AB 301, targeting body armor ownership as a factor in red flag laws, marks another notable addition to California's already extensive arm control measures. As the bill awaits the governor's signature, the potential implications of this measure on individual rights and public safety will be closely watched and debated. Balancing public safety with individual liberties remains a central challenge in navigating the complexities of this issue. Impact on Second Amendment. The implementation of red flag laws or extreme risk protection orders has sparked significant debate regarding their implications on the Second Amendment, which grants citizens the right to bear arms. These laws, designed to prevent potential harm by temporarily restricting access to arms, have raised questions about how they intersect with individual liberties and public safety. The central challenge in assessing the impact of red flag laws on the Second Amendment lies in striking a delicate balance between safeguarding individual rights and ensuring the safety and security of the public. Advocates argue that these laws provide a crucial tool to address situations where individuals may pose a significant risk to themselves or others. By temporarily removing arms from these individuals, it is believed that potential tragedies can be averted. However, opponents express concerns that red flag laws may infringe upon the Second Amendment rights of individuals, potentially leading to situations where arms are seized without sufficient evidence or due process. They emphasize the importance of preserving the right to bear arms while seeking alternative methods to address public safety concerns.
The Attorney General himself, Ken Paxton, tweeted saying, quote, "What we just witnessed is illegal."
Metro Detention Center. We know that that is the largest mental health facility drug treatment center in the state of New Mexico.
For arm owners, the impact of red flag laws can be substantial. If an individual is subject to an extreme risk protection order, they may experience a temporary restriction on their ability to possess arms. This restriction is typically implemented to provide a cooling-off period and to allow for a thorough assessment of the situation. The legal process involved in obtaining an ERPO is critical in safeguarding the rights of the individual. It requires a petition to be filed with the court, outlining the specific reasons why the individual poses a risk. A judge then evaluates the evidence and determines whether to issue the order. Importantly, individuals who are subject to an ERPO have the opportunity to contest the order in court, ensuring that due process is upheld. It is important to highlight that red flag laws impose temporary restrictions on arm ownership. The intention is not to permanently deprive individuals of their Second Amendment rights, but rather to provide a safeguard during periods of heightened risk. Once the designated period has elapsed, the individual may have their firearms returned, provided that they no longer pose a significant threat. Proponents of red flag laws assert that they can be a valuable tool in preventing incidents of violence or self-harm involving arms. By providing a legal mechanism to temporarily remove arms from individuals in crisis, it is believed that these laws can play a role in reducing the likelihood of tragic outcomes. While red flag laws have the potential to enhance public safety, they are not without their challenges. Striking the right balance between protecting individual rights and addressing public safety concerns requires careful consideration. It is imperative that the criteria for flagging individuals are clearly defined and that due process is rigorously upheld throughout the legal proceedings. In decision, the impact of red flag laws on the Second Amendment is a complex and nuanced issue. While these laws aim to prevent potential harm by temporarily restricting access to arms, they also raise important questions about the preservation of individual rights. Balancing these concerns requires thoughtful legislation, robust legal safeguards, and ongoing dialogue about the intersection of rights and public safety in the context of armed control. Consequences for violators. The enforcement of red flag laws relies on a system of consequences for individuals who violate extreme risk protection orders. The primary consequence is the temporary removal of arms from individuals subject to an ERPO. This measure is taken to mitigate immediate risks associated with their possession of arms. The duration of this seizure is determined during the ERPO hearing based on the assessment of the presiding judge. In more severe cases, violation of an ERPO may lead to criminal charges. These charges can range from misdemeanors to felonies, depending on the nature and extent of the violation. Criminal penalties serve as a deterrent to non-compliance, reinforcing the importance of adhering to the restrictions outlined in the ERPO. Non-compliance with an ERPO may result in being held in contempt of court. This legal consequence can result in additional penalties, including fines or even incarceration. It underscores the significance of respecting court orders and abiding by the legal restrictions outlined in the ERPO. Furthermore, violating an ERPO can lead to an extension or modification of the order. If a judge determines that the individual continues to pose a risk, they have the authority to extend the duration of the ERPO or impose additional restrictions. This discretionary power further emphasizes the seriousness with which ERPO violations are treated within the legal system. Depending on the severity of the violation, individuals found in violation of an ERPO may face long-term or permanent restrictions on firearm ownership, even after the initial ERPO has expired. This enduring consequence underscores the gravity of violating an ERPO and serves as a deterrent to future non-compliance. Law enforcement procedures. To ensure the effective enforcement of red flag laws, law enforcement agencies follow structured procedures designed to uphold due process while safeguarding public safety. The process begins with the filing of a petition by a concerned party, such as a family member or law enforcement officer, requesting an ERPO. This petition must contain detailed information and evidence supporting the claim that an individual poses a significant risk. The judge's review of the petition is a critical step in the process. It determines whether there is sufficient cause to issue an ERPO. This evaluation is crucial in safeguarding the rights of the individual and ensuring that the criteria for flagging individuals are met. Upon issuance of the ERPO, law enforcement agencies play a central role in its enforcement. They are responsible for notifying the individual subject to the ERPO of the order, as well as executing the temporary seizure of arms.
An escalation in violence perpetrated with guns, particularly among our young people, in a manner that I have never seen before.
Not really. Look, if you want the community to be safer, show me that you can do that.
The seized arms are typically held in secure storage, often within the custody of law enforcement, to ensure they remain inaccessible to the individual. A pivotal phase in the process is the ERPO hearing, which allows the subject of the order an opportunity to contest its validity. This hearing upholds due process and provides a forum for the subject to present their case. Throughout the period of the ERPO, law enforcement agencies monitor compliance, ensuring that the subject does not attempt to regain possession of arms. This proactive approach is essential in maintaining public safety and upholding the restrictions outlined in the ERPO. Upon expiration of the ERPO, law enforcement agencies are typically required to return the seized arms, provided that the subject no longer poses a significant risk. This step ensures that individuals who no longer meet the criteria for an ERPO are able to exercise their Second Amendment rights once again. Legal battles and debates. The implementation of red flag laws, also known as extreme risk protection orders, has sparked a series of legal battles and vigorous debates. These legal challenges primarily revolve around the constitutionality and procedural aspects of ERPOs. Critics argue that the introduction of ERPOs raise important questions about due process and the balance between public safety and individual rights. One of the key legal debates centers on the process by which ERPOs are obtained. Critics assert that the threshold for issuing an ERPO must be carefully defined and supported by substantial evidence. They argue that a failure to meet this standard may infringe upon an individual's constitutional rights. Striking the right balance between preserving the right to bear arms and addressing potential risks remains a central point of contention in legal circles. Additionally, the potential for manipulation or misuse of ERPOs has been a subject of concern. Critics argue that without robust legal safeguards and oversight, there is a risk that ERPOs could be invoked for reasons other than genuine public safety concerns. This has prompted calls for transparent and accountable procedures to prevent unwarranted or malicious use of ERPOs. Second Amendment advocates' concerns. Second Amendment advocates have voiced significant concerns regarding the potential impact of ERPOs on the right to bear arms. They argue that ERPOs, if not carefully crafted and implemented, have the potential to infringe upon the Second Amendment rights of individuals. Critics emphasize the need for clear and specific criteria for flagging individuals, as well as rigorous due process protections.
Types of disputes that would be settled by people yelling at each other, maybe engaging in a fist fight, are being settled with guns.
We have the third highest related injuries in the country, 90% higher.
In swift. The implementation of red flag laws has given rise to a range of challenges and controversies. Legal debates focus on due process protections and the criteria for issuing ERPOs, while Second Amendment advocates raise concerns about the potential impact on constitutional rights. Balancing public safety with individual liberties remains a central challenge in navigating the complexities of ERPOs. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.